All right, so everybody watched Kyle Shanahan don that NFC Champions hat at the end of the game. And we all, at least for a second, I think, lived in make-believe world for a second, where Kyle Shanahan was the coach of the Broncos and how much would things be different. And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, nobody does. But if I had to guess, Rob filling in for Vic and Moshe today, it wouldn't look like San Francisco.
You sure about that?
I think so. And here's why. Now, if we're living in make-believe world, it's a tandem pick, right? So it's both John Lynch and Shanahan, like what the Niners have. Where they would get things right is in the draft process because they draft unbelievably well. But the Niners were set up to be successful even when they took over. They weren't some dog butt team who was awful, awful, awful.
Weren't they?
I don't think they were that bad, were they?
All right, go ahead. Make your point. I'll find out.
It would have been a slow build. But there's so much other stuff that goes into this where you got to get lucky, and they have gotten supremely lucky in a couple of different categories. Number one, where they find these diamonds in the rough that turn into these all-world players, you can think that a guy is going to be something that never comes to fruition. Whether that be, offensive line isn't good enough, so you can't make this work or this or this. Where they deserve all the credit in the world, though, is how they've built the team. They've built a team, which sounds impossible by these standards, that is not quarterback dependent. Like, I don't think Purdy's bad. But you watched him. It's not like he lit anybody up, and that's a bad pass defense that he was going against yesterday. You got to have all the other pieces to it. And I just don't know how much time that would take for you to build that here. That's the question that I have. If I just plucked Shanahan and put him on this team next year and said, coach them, I don't know how much different they look.
Well, so you kind of made my first point for me, is that they're not quarterback dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not quarterback dependent, what does that mean it is? Scheme?
Well,
because you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't scheme it right, then it doesn't matter.
True, but you only have this possibility by having the amount of talent surrounding it.
I mean, but like, who are we talking about here? Because Brock Purdy is one thing, right? Let's set this year aside because we can debate about him all day.
The best running back in the world right now,
okay,
is on that roster.
No doubt there's plenty of talent there. But I want you to go back through quarterback history with the 49ers and talk about guys like Jimmy Garoppolo that he took to a Super Bowl. And I think we all see what Jimmy G really is now.
Yeah.
Right? Nick Mullins.
Which is why, guys, save the quarterback win stat for me because I'll point to Garoppolo every time.
Right. How about Nick Mullins? How about C.J. Beathard that put together a nice effort for them?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I think you have to give a little bit of credit to Shanahan here. And it's the same reason.
Well, I'm not taking that away. Just to be clear about something, I'm not trying to knock down Shanahan as a coach. I'm saying the differences between the teams of the Niners and the Broncos, it's a vastly different challenge. And he has the benefit because him and John Lynch have had such a great mind in how to form a team.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say, too, is he came along with Lynch.
Yeah.
So if you got him, you probably ended up with Lynch, too.
Right. The tandem of those two, though, and their ability to do this is where I give them all the credit in the world. Let's be honest. They've been pretty bad at finding quarterback talent. They've been really good at how to work with them.
Sure.
They traded 3 first-round picks for a guy who barely played for him in Trey Lance.
Yep.
That is that's a death penalty for almost any other team in the league. For you to trade 3 first-rounders for a guy who played, 100 snaps or something? That's crazy. But they've been able to get away with it because this is what I think they're best at. They saw their opportunity. They go, we're a pretty talented team. We got this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Quarterback's not great, but they saw when their window opened up and they struck with a McCaffrey trade. And they went out and they got Trent Williams. And they go out and they get Chase Young at the deadline. Like, they just know how to pluck at the right time to throw guys on here. And what's really beneficial to them, I know this has been talked about by everybody all the time, When you're paying your quarterback like $650,000, you can pay Trent Williams and Kittle and Debo and McCaffrey and everybody else that's on that roster whatever sort of money you want. But the question now, and this is the next step in the evolution, I don't know, when is Purdy's contract up? Isn't it a couple years still?
This will be year 2, yeah, so he'll have 2 more years.
When they got to make that decision, this guy just took you to a Super Bowl. This team's going to be good next year too. You going to throw $50 million at this guy? Because that's probably what it's going to take. And the second you do that, then what happens? That's the next evolution of this that, look, it's a couple of years down the line, but if he can do that, like if he can get away with paying that guy top dollar money for a franchise quarterback, which it doesn't matter if you're as good as Mahomes or anything, if this is the going rate, that's the going rate. If you can do that and then still field a team that's this level good, that's where I'll be blown away. But they have done so well at the part that I thought was an impossibility of quarterback doesn't matter.